Hello and welcome to Handmade by Sallywood's YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a left-handed back loop only single crochet and just demonstrate that technique. Now I am right-handed. This is my right-handed stitch and you can see it's quite a bit looser than my left-handed stitch, and that's sort of what's going to happen when you work with your offhand. Your dominant hand is always going to be stronger, and but it's really great to just try to use both and give one hand a rest. Also, oh, sorry. Also, I just want to point out that if you are starting a project that's not like a granny square, you can only use one hand for it, be it your right or your left. You can't switch hands mid-project, like going down one row and then in one hand and then switching to the other hand. It just wouldn't work. I mean, the tension alone is quite different. So I'm going to get started now and show you how to make the very first basic stitch, which is a slip knot. So I'm going to do this all left-handed. So that means we make a little crisscross. This is what I call the tail end. This is what I call the working end. This is the end that is attached to the rest of the ball that we're going to be making all of our crochets with. This is just the tail end of it, or the straggler. So we're making a little crisscross, and then we're taking our tail end and we're sort of pushing it through that little loop that we just made. And we're pulling it through to make an adjustable loop. So now we have our first loop that'll stay on the hook, and we're picking up our hook. I'm going to be using a K-hook with this yarn because this is a bit bulkier yarn than your average like worsted weight yarn. So this is a great stitch to learn if you're making a scarf or a headband or a dishcloth. It's really great depending on what kind of yarn you're using. I'm using Bernat Homemaker Deck for this demonstration because I just love teaching with this yarn. So you'll see how I sort of looped this yarn through my hand to create some better tension for it. This is just how I prefer to do this for now. If you have a different method for creating the tension, then use that. But I like this one because it creates tension here to keep this part, the working end, nice and secure, and it creates tension here to keep the tail end nice and secure. So now we're going to do our first stitch technique and make a chain stitch. So how we're doing that left-handed is we take our crochet hook, holding it sort of like this, and we're wrapping it under our yarn like so. Then we're pulling it through the loop that is already on the hook, just like this. And there we have our first chain stitch. I'm going to do 11 more of these so that you can clearly see the technique. We're holding it sort of like we'd hold our toothbrush, putting it under our yarn there, giving that a little twist to the right, and then we're drawing that through the loop that is already on the hook. It's a little tight, a little tight because of the tension. That's something else you can adjust as you go along. So now we're doing that again. and again, and again. And as I said, do this about 11 times. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is just for a practice watch. If you were making something like a dishcloth, I'd have you chain the size of your hand. So, again, not used to using my right hand to make the tension. So now we have our chain for our swatch. When we're making a single crochet, we're skipping that first stitch. That first stitch from the hook is a placeholder stitch. It doesn't really count as a stitch to work in. It just elevates our work to the height of a single crochet. So we're going to be working in this next stitch, and you'll see how I turned my work so that we're working in this sort of like back loop, this sort of humpy third loop here. I also want to just tell you that the first round is always going to be the hardest round. So the other rounds are just always so much easier, and it's just because the first round is always the tightest. So now we have inserted our hook into that second loop from the hook, and we now have like 2 loops on the hook. To make a single crochet, we're going to do start it out just like a slip stitch. A chain stitch. We are twisting our hook underneath it, pulling that working yarn through that first loop we have, and then holding it in place. Look, it still looks like we have 2 loops on our hook now, and we're going to yarn over again and give it a little twist, and then we're going to, instead of pulling it through one loop, we'll pull it through both of those loops right there. And so you'll see our first single crochet. Yay! So now I'll show you again. We're taking our yarn, we're taking our hook, and we're inserting it into that humpy middle third loop thing so that it looks like we have 2 loops on our hook. We're yarning over hook, giving it a little twist and pulling it through so that we still have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over again and draw through those 2 loops, and that is our single crochet. And so we're going to just do that all the way down. I'll do it again for you, but then I'm going to pause this so that I can just do this really quicker off camera, inserting it into that third loop, yarning over hook and giving it a little twist, pulling it through that first loop there, holding it in place so that we have 2 loops on our hook, yarn over again and draw through those 2 loops. Again, really tight first row. So, all right, now we're just going to do that across, and I'll meet you up at the end. Okay, so now we've reached the end of our first row, and it's all nice and neat, quite a bit tight, as I said. And now what I'd like you to do with this end here is make a chain 1 So yarn over a hook, give it a little twist, and then do a chain 1. Again, that's just a placeholder. So then we're turning our work so that we can make the next row. And with this row, I'm going to be teaching you how to do a back loop only single crochet. So with each of these stitches, you're going to see this like V shape, and there are going to be these 2 loops that make it up. This loop, considered the front loop because it's closest to you, and this loop considered the back loop because in this loop considered the back loop because it's further away from you. Now, when we're making a back loop only single crochet, guess what we're working in? We're working in that back loop there. If we were making a regular single crochet, we'd be working through both of those loops. As I said, this back loop only single crochet is just much better for certain projects like dishcloths and headbands and things like that. The single crochet is great for learning basics though. So if you're having some trouble doing this back loop only stitch, try doing the regular single crochet. If you're having that problem, just insert for that one, just insert it like this under both of those loops, yarn over and draw through. So that you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over again and draw through that first loop. And no, yarn over and draw through both of those loops. Sorry, I was confusing it with the first round. So no, this time you yarn over and you draw through both of those loops first once you've inserted it under. That is the regular single crochet. We're not going to be really doing that here though. We're going to be working on the back loop only single crochet. So we're going to be working in this back loop here, inserting our hook, yarning over and giving it a little twist so that we have 2 loops on the hook now. Yarn over again and draw through those 2 loops. And we have our single crochet that's just in the back loop. And as you do this all the way down, you're going to be seeing it's going to create a pretty cool looking rib stitch that will give it a bit of a relief, so that which is why it makes such a great like dishcloth. It just gives it something to really like for the grime and stuff like that to hold on to. It's great. So for a dishcloth, I would recommend using Lily Sugar and Cream yarn because that's 100% cotton. It's a relatively inexpensive yarn. And so if something goes wrong, like you use it in hot water and it bleeds, it's okay. You have more, you can get more yarn. It's also cotton, so it dries really fast. This yarn is a cotton poly blend, I think, or a nylon blend, so it doesn't dry that well, or else I'd be like, this would be a great yarn for dishcloths and things like that. So it's not. Acrylic yarn also has the problem of not being fast drying. So and also leaving like it, I noticed that and wool yarn leave behind like pieces of tufts of fiber on dishes. So that's not the best thing either. So now you'll see we're practically done with this round, and we are inserting our hook into that back loop, yarning over and drawing through that loop, yarning over again and drawing through those two loops. You'll see that you develop a kind of a rhythm. You'll also see that this round is much easier than the previous round. I'm going through this much faster than I went through the first single crochet round. So this is our first row of back loop only single crochet. Ta-da! And now we're going to chain one, turn our work, and do it again. So now we're going into this, we're skipping over that first chain that we made. We're going into this second chain underneath there, yarning over and drawing through and drawing through two. Insert our hook to the second one and into the third one, yarn over and draw through that first loop, yarn over and draw through those two loops. And we're doing that all the way down. Make sure you're using one single crochet in each stitch. Otherwise, you'll be doing what's called an increase by making two stitches, and it's going to look really weird, like it'll have a buckle in the middle of it. So just keep an eye on that. And you'll see we're nearing our end here, which is why I chained only 10. And to make a swatch, you'd want to do about 10 rows of this. I found that if you wanted to make a dishcloth using an H hook and Lily Sugar and Cream, you're going to want to chain about 31 and then make about 30 rows. So again, we're inserting it into that next loop. Yarning over, pulling through those two loops. So then, inserting it into that last stitch there, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, and pulling through two. Okay, and there we have our second row. You can see it's starting to get that really nice ribbed look. And as I said, you're going to do this for about 10 rows. This is it finished. So and as you can see again, like one is definitely bigger than the other, even though they are the same length. So it's a really great fun project, and I hope you really enjoyed this video. Thank you so much, and happy crafting.